Hello, this is 30 Wordy and Friendship. I'm Alia Bogdanoff.
I'm Whitney Ensom.
And we are starting our first episode of Season 2. We are so excited. We cut off Season 1 and we, took a little bit of a break. Mm-hmm. We wanted to figure out what Season 2 looked like. We wanted to kind of have a lot of conversations about where we were going. And, we've gotten so much feedback from people and the things that they liked hearing about, the things that they really connected with. And I think that's what drew us to kind of go a little different in Season 2.
Yeah, we're going to kind of go off the script and kind of like we did
Literally
for the
off
last
script.
season. We have no paper in front of us. We usually have notes because we talk about it before. And so the last episode of Season 1, we really just, I think that was both of our attitudes going in.
Yes.
Like, this is just the worst. And then we just kind of let it be what it was. And I think that it went well. And you had a friend that reached out to you after that episode and really felt like she connected to it, and she said something about, I feel like I'm
sitting in my living room talking to my best friends.
Yes, and that is exactly what our heart is for this, of relatable and mostly relatable. I can't think of other words.
Well, we used to prepare questions.
We did.
And that was kind of our format. I think that was good for us in the beginning.
I think so.
Because we wanted to make sure that we always had something to talk about. But we figured out that we almost never have open air. So
we don't have to always have something to talk about.
Yeah, some of our best conversations are always like non-guided.
Yeah.
So today
we
picked a topic that we like, and we're trying to be non-topical, but we're going to talk about something that we're thinking about, and these are things that we're living every day. So
yeah. So we're going to talk about worry because I think that's something that's relatable to all of us. It's definitely relatable for you and I, and I'm sure people listening could relate. We worry about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it can really affect how we cope. So we're just going to talk about worry. We have no questions. We're just going to have a conversation. So worry. What are we worried about? Let's list all of the things that we're I'm feeling at you. I'm going, so Leo, what are you worried about?
Let's do this thing.
Okay, we'll just go back and forth, right? What are you worried about?
Having surgery for my next baby. I get C-sections, so I think about that often.
I'm so sorry.
I hate being cut open. It's my third one.
All three?
Yeah, I have to do C-sections every child. I'm a special one. So
you are special.
So I hate surgery. I can't even watch a movie where they're cutting people.
Like a hospital show? You can't
I used to watch Grey's Anatomy. I can't do it anymore. I watched one season and then they show surgery and I'm like, I can't.
Blood,
I have to tell the doctor before the surgery, don't talk about my insides out loud if you can help it. Like, don't mention my insides.
Like, there's an intestine.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know
you see when you
where you put things.
Just
it
wrap it all
freaks
up,
me out. I have an anxiety attack.
So it'll be fine.
So every time I have a child, I find out I'm pregnant. I'm like, yay! Oh, I have to have surgery.
Okay,
so that's a worry.
Okay. Thanks for sharing.
What about you?
I feel really bad for you. Can't tie that up with a bow.
Yeah.
So I'm worried about what people think. Sometimes
Of you?
No, I think when you're in your 30s, let me just speak for myself.
Yeah.
Now that I'm getting older, I kind of just do life the way that I like.
Yeah.
And if people don't get on board, I'm like, it's cool. But I think in those moments of maybe I'm feeling insecure about something at work or conversation with someone, and worried about the response. Like, is this something that they'll relate to? Does this make sense? Just kind of just worried about what people's perception is. I think I try not to put myself in that position. Like, it's not my business what people think about me.
Yeah.
But
you
there
can't
is some
help
of that
it.
still. I can't help it because that still is in there. I think just the worry about that.
Which I think anyone can relate to. If somebody says they really don't give a fudge what people think about them, they probably care so much, they're fudging about it. They're fudging liars.
Because that's not real.
Because we all worry about what people think about us.
We do. And I think we could even go to a whole list of what we're worried about what people think of us. So anyway, that's mine so far.
Yeah. I worry about my children because it's biological, I guess. I don't know. I worry. Sometimes I'm not even kidding. I was falling asleep the other night. Falling asleep. And I had this like moment where I just thought about my daughter, like, oh, we're going to go to the beach soon. And then I had this image of her drowning.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Why? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then like me and Voss crying and we're trying to revive her. Why? I'm trying to fall asleep. That stuff happens all the time. Like just worrying about your children.
Like intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, like them being injured or hurt, but it's usually of them dying. It's just like you're trying so hard to raise them, right? But you're like also trying to keep them alive.
Because you can't help some of the stuff that's going to happen.
It does, yeah.
You can't like put bubble. You
can't
have bubble children.
No, and I don't read articles anymore about like children's deaths, especially when I'm pregnant. No. Anything about children being injured, it will send me into like I'll be paranoid. Yeah. So, and I try not to raise my kids in fear. So my husband and I are really big on like don't raise them to be afraid of everything because we know people who do that, and it's just it makes for very insecure children.
It does.
We want them to be secure. So yeah, what about you?
Well, the future, right? So what is going to happen at work? That's something that's happening lately. What's going to happen with this and that, and how am I going to adjust, and what does this mean for me, and what does the future look like?
Yeah,
because I'm over time as well, it's been like the last year, I would say, just in this season, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm not going to think too far in the future. I'm going to see that this season has a purpose, even if it's something I'm not always thrilled about.
Yeah.
That there's something in it, even if it's just growing in communication or growing in, like being assertive with people. I feel like that's been this season of a better communication, but that trying not to be anxious for, like I was telling you earlier about, this verse that came to mind as I was in that tailspin, like what's going to happen? What am I going to do? How am I going to take care of myself if things change? Instead of going, be anxious for nothing.
Yeah.
Have, that recognition of what God's able to do for us when He knows, and I don't, but I think I have to consciously stopped myself. Like thought stopped. Like, nope, you're not going to go there. And I did.
Yeah.
And I had to say no more. And I think that's something, the future, that's been a struggle.
Yeah. I worry a lot about, again, this is all like very family relational. Yeah. I worry about my kids having enough time with their dad. I think that happens a lot when you have a husband. My husband works out of town a lot now. Yeah. And every time he comes home, my first priority is that they have time with their father, that they're, because my son, he was in a really bad mood this morning and he was just crying a lot about Cheerios and his bowl not being the right color.
It's not about the Cheerios or the bowl.
And I literally sat him down and was like, it's not the Cheerios.
Yes.
What's going on? He's 3.
Yeah.
You would think he would not be able to have like a really in-depth conversation when I was like, you've cried now about Cheerios, about the fact that your bowl was not blue, about all these random things this morning. And he said, I miss Daddy. And he started crying. And I was like, that's what... And I love it when I
love that you went there. You were like, I know it's not the Cheerios. Son, what's going on? But you've shared he's had those moments before. Like he knows himself. He has that self-awareness.
Yeah, because kids are little humans and they...
if you give them opportunity to go there, they will.
They will. And you can get down to like a deeper issue. One time the deeper issue was not on an emotional issue. One time is because he was just being so, I don't know, he was just acting out so much. And I sat him down and I was like, well, you need to tell me what's going on. And he started to cry. And I was like, our term is, does your heart hurt?
Yes.
And that's a way of him understanding that he's sad. Yes. And he says, my heart hurts. And I said, why does your heart hurt? And he said, this morning in the shower, I sat on a helicopter. And I think it poked him in the booty and it hurt really bad. And he was in a bad mood for hours. But talking about the helicopter incident really alleviated.
Validation. Like, that really hurt.
It really hurt his heart and other parts, but it hurt his heart a lot.
all of the parts.
And I just love it because, like, that happens to us too, where something happens and we try to pretend like it's not bothering us and we just move on. But we're living on edge. And then people who know us well are like, what's going on? And if you really ask yourself, you're like, oh, it's that dumb thing or that kind of significant thing that happened. Yeah.
Because the things on the outside seem maybe dumb, even to us. And like, why are you getting mad?
Yeah.
Why are you feeling that way? This is not that important.
Right,
but in that
right.
moment, but then you have to be able to have the tools. Hopefully you've done this before, or someone can teach you how. Thank therapy. How to look at the thing below it, of there is something there, and helping other people get there, like the little ones, because got to have that emotional awareness.
Yeah,
or we just cry over helicopters.
I'm huge on asking yourself what's wrong. Like, what really asking yourself, because I say, well, my husband's working out of town a lot, right? And what happens is when he's gone, I am in like go mode. I'm mom and dad, for sometimes 3 days in a row. Yeah. I have very little help. Well, Whitney comes over and helps me a lot. And I have other family who, will like pop in and help out. But, if I'm alone for 3 days, I can't afford to get emotional. I can't afford to break down. I can't afford to be off, because I'm raising these children, and, I don't have as much leeway, is how I feel. But when my husband comes home, I like break down and I cry, and I ask myself, like, what's going on? And it's usually that I'm feeling emotionally spent, because I am keeping, trying to be very consistent for the kids. Yeah. Us as moms don't get to be as emotional, because otherwise those emotions are going to come out on them. And then I'm going to get mad or overreact about something small. So I try to keep a consistency, And when I'm not consistent, we call my husband, and he, what's it called? He not negotiates. He talks to us, the family. Like we'll call, and McCoy will call Daddy. He'll say, I want to call Daddy, and he'll tell Daddy that Mommy is mad. We just have a talk about it.
He tells on you.
He tells on me, and I let him. Yes, he will call Dad and say, Mommy's mad, and Boss will openly on speakerphone. We'll talk it out as a family.
I love it.
Yeah, and just, those check-in times.
You got to figure out what works.
Yeah.
Should we still list things? What else are we worried about? Anything? I'm sure you have more. Those are them. I mean, that's what stuck out to me. It was those things were like consuming my definition of worry of. But I think for me, it's like I put myself too far into the future, or thinking that other people's perceptions are the way that they are. So if I can just stay in that moment, and be like, this is the present moment. This is where I'm at. I don't know the future. Yeah. I know who does, and I'm just going to chill, because otherwise some things are happening, like I'm driving too fast, or like, cause I'm like not thinking, and I'm like, gotta get to, I'm stressed, gotta get to work, or, just not present in that moment. And worry takes away the joy. It takes away what's happening in the moment. And it just makes me not a nice, pleasant person to be around.
Can I ask an intrusive
Combined with caffeine in the morning. I started drinking coffee, by the way. Worst idea. It doesn't wake me up very much until like later in the day. Yeah. It gives me the jitters.
Gives you the jitters.
Like my hand was shaking. Like one day.
Oh no.
So funny story. So my coworker listened to this, so there's a funny story about her. So so I work with like chaplains and nurses and me as a social worker. So we prayed with a patient one day. We all just held hands and prayed with patient and his family. And so I'm holding her hand, and my hands are shaking. Oh, no. And she goes, hey, are you okay? And I go, I had a medium instead of a small this morning.
Oh, no.
So I've had to cut down a little bit. Otherwise, it's just a mess. And then I'm like, what's
She's like,
happening?
My person who's praying with me is a Coke addict. She's shaking in there.
You good, bro?
Oh my gosh!
Like too much caffeine.
I had too much caffeine.
Just gotta scale back. What was your comment?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, can I ask an intrusive question?
Sure. I love.
Well.
Okay.
Okay, so let's break it down a little bit more.
Okay.
Let's therapize. That's what I call it. Therapize this.
Yeah.
So you're worried about what people think of you, but like, what is in your head the epitome of like the worst thing they could think about you? Okay, I'll do mine first.
Okay.
I'll go first.
Think about this. I'm going to listen halfway to you, and halfway think of mine.
That's great.
Okay.
So when I talk about the fears that I have, like I talk about like fearing my children being injured, for me, I know I've broken it down before. I know that I fear great loss.
Yes.
I fear a great loss in the family. My family was always broken apart. I have
loss.
never had my whole family together at one point in my life. We had all, my dad moved away when I was really little. We didn't reconnect. See, I didn't really know him very well from like 13 to like 23. It's like 10 years. My mom and I were estranged for 3 years in my 20s. And then when I got her back, she died shortly after. My brother and I were separated for a long period. A lot of my family had a lot of conflict that kept them separated for many years of their life. So this is the first family that has stayed together for me.
That is significant.
Right? And it freaks me out because I am constantly worried that I'm going to lose that because I've never had that. And so there's this part of me that fears the worst happening, which is losing somebody, is the loss of someone I care about. And so that drives, I know for me, a lot of very small moments. And when I really dig deep inside, it's like my greatest fear is loss. I'm going to lose somebody that I really care about. And you're the only one that ever came back.
Holla. Sitting down talking about it, and look what happened. So I recently read the book was recommended to me. I can't think of the book's name right now, but I've been learning about Enneagrams.
Yeah.
And so I figured out I'm a 4.
Okay.
There's not a lot of us, it turns out. And the person that recommended the book, she's like, "Are you sure you're a 4? Because I've heard that 4s cry a lot." I'm like, she's like, "I know a 4 and she just cries all the time." I go, I don't cry all the time. But I really, so I think what I understand, and I'm not an expert, so those of you who are experts on Enneagrams, pardon if I'm speaking incorrectly, but what I've learned, at least I'll just speak for 4s. So my core belief, so I found this on Pinterest right now because I had pinned it. So being inadequate, feeling abandoned, feeling defective. This is getting real vulnerable here.
Yeah.
And feeling plain or ordinary, like not significant.
Right.
So that, I think, drives some, I don't know about worry. I mean, yes, the core fear, because my desire is to be a unique person, to be my authentic self.
Yeah.
So maybe, just thinking out loud, the times when it relates to the people's, perceptions or what I'm insecure about or worried about what they'll think is maybe my own, that core belief really driving that.
Like you're not going to be seen for who you really are.
Yes. Or that I'm not good enough at something.
Right.
Or like there's something flawed.
Right.
That's the core belief.
Well,
I'm
they call
flawed,
it
inadequate.
imposter syndrome, which is where you're constantly afraid that you're an imposter and someone's going to find out that you're not really as good as you say you are.
Right.
And it's that fear that drives like this, even though you're good at your job or you're good at communicating with others, you constantly fear that someone's going to find out something about you.
Sometimes I review the day and I go, I actually did a really good job today.
Should I get paid today?
Like someone's going to find out something and I'm like, I am the most ethical person. Nothing happened.
Yeah,
but
I do the same thing.
I just worry about that, and people who know me, those things are not true.
Right.
And if I'm in my wise self, bringing out the DBT, bringing out my wise self, who's able to not think in my old brain, who says, no, this is who you are and this is who you've become. Right. Because those core beliefs start young age. Yeah. And they get compounded by life things that have happened. So I think understanding personality-wise that I'm intuitive, that I'm sensitive, that I'm passionate, I'm an individualist, and I'm trying to find that deeper meaning for myself and how intentional I am with people. I still feel sometimes like I like that imposter. Like my core belief is that I am not doing a good enough job at being me. And
someone's going to find out.
And someone's going to find out. And then they're going to leave.
They're going to out you.
Yep.
Voss and I, my husband, for those of you who don't know, we recognized after a few years of marriage that we would always, whenever we would get upset about something, it always kind of drove down to this core lie that we believed. Mine was always that I'm all alone. I'm having to do this all by myself. And so the things that I would get most upset about and I would bring up the most conflict about, it would always end up me saying, well, cause I'm all alone. You're not here for me. I'm all by. And he would be like, what are you talking about? I am here for you. But I would constantly come back to that. I still do.
Yeah.
And but we've learned to recognize that if you're saying something a lot, if your fear or if your core dark feeling is constantly repeating over and over, it's because that's something that you're internally working on. That's like a really big thing for you.
Yes.
His, I think, was always, he always felt like a failure.
Yeah.
Even though he wasn't. Even though if you looked at his life and you
Absolutely.
looked at the things he's done, nothing equals failure. But it's something he fears constantly is failing, which I think is more of a male thing.
But maybe that drives the actions, right? So if you feel like a failure, you might overdo things. You might work harder than you need to.
Have you met my husband?
Yeah. but
overdo things is his middle name,
that lie is there,
Yeah.
or that core belief, or whatever we call it, if we don't recognize that that's what's driving our actions, no amount of doing those things is going to change our core belief. It takes work.
We talk about that. I'm like, no amount of success is going to make you feel like you're not a failure. You have to work on the part of you that thinks you're a failure, and you have to correct that. And me, same way. Like, no amount of people being in my, because you know me, I'm extremely social, but I often feel alone. So how is it that I'm such a social person, but I struggle with loneliness?
How is that? What do you think? No, because I think I know, but I want to hear what you're going to say.
Oh, I'm not totally sure. Do you think something? Tell me.
Well, I wonder, and I could be wrong, and I could be outing you.
We're therapizing. It's all right. It's not.
So maybe if I'll just say, I say we because I try to like universalize, and I don't want to single you out. So all the yous out there are included. So say we're so social, but our core belief is that we're alone. Yeah. Maybe we surround ourselves with more people to make us not feel alone, when really they're not the person that can fix that.
Oh my God.
Mic drop.
Wow. Yes. I'm always.
There's nothing wrong with you having friends.
There's
nothing wrong with you love people, and people are drawn to you, but you still there's this, because then you know things are going on with you with being pregnant and being home a lot, as you've said before in past episodes. The last one that's been a difficulty, not being able to do that.
Make new friends.
And to be around
I
all
love
of your
to
people.
make new friends.
You want them to feel so included.
I love the newness of friendship.
Yeah.
Almost to the point where, like, I make new friends intentionally. And it's so true, because it really satisfies a part of me that feels lonely inside. And I think that has a lot more to do with my upbringing, because I was left alone a lot as a child. Both of my parents, I was talking about this with my sister-in-law this morning, both of my parents were very busy. They were both single parents. They were divorced. So with all that they had to accomplish, you know, I don't even think it was part of that time where they spent a lot of time with kids. You know, I remember spending a lot of days on job sites with my dad, which I love. Home Depot still makes me misty-eyed. Like, I still think about him. Place. But, like, I remember being on job sites instead of being out playing, you know, or with my mom. She wasn't really a big play with her kids kind of mom. She was like, go play. I'm going to be inside on the phone. She was a big phone person. And she would send me to play. And so there was a lot of sense of loneliness when I was little. And I wasn't very social when I was young. So I didn't make a lot of friends until my teenage years. And then I figured out that, like, I could make 1,000 friends and feel good about myself.
And still that like core thing is still
it's still there. And I still struggle with it.
Woo, vulnerability right there.
I know, right?
Now you all know our core beliefs and fears. But if we don't know them, how do we act differently? How do we grow?
Right.
Because if I know that, okay, so for instance, so I have these gals I hike with. I just met, and one of them sent me because she's the one who told me that, she was like, why are you a 4? So she sent me this thing on Instagram about 4s, and I had read more and realized that as I'm hearing about all of this hiking and being involved and everybody's going to get to do it, my fear is that I will, like, disappear in it. That it's no longer my thing, or like that it becomes like sort of just, it becomes lost. I don't know.
Talking about the ordinary thing again?
Yeah. Which
is so weird, because you're like the most not ordinary person I know.
But like, if
you're like the funniest, quirkiest,
I know,
different person I know.
I know. There's not a lot of us in the world.
There's not.
No. INFJ, Enneagram 4. But I realized, you know, that in this, since I know that about myself, to not put so much of my sense of identity into this, to see what God's going to do with it, to trust that this is him bringing these people around to do this thing, this hiking thing for people's wellness, that I'm still significant.
Yeah.
So if I didn't know, I would start acting weird, and I don't know if people would understand, but knowing that helps me to like organize my thoughts, prepare myself, and just, behave in a way that's just to be myself.
Well, I think that you touched on this a little earlier, like acting out in our insecurities, which is, I totally know what that feels like. I do that. It's so funny. You and I are very similar, but very different. I'm an ENFJ, which is just basically the outgoing, more outgoing personality of the same thing.
Yes.
And what happens to me is I'm a very in charge person, and I have this bad habit of trying to be in charge of everywhere I go and analyzing what's happening around me. So when I'm in groups and I don't think it's being run properly, I start to kind of nitpick at things, and it should be done this way, it should be done this. And a lot of times, I try to organize. It's a natural ability that turns into a disability because I will judge things based off of how organized they are. Like when my mom passed away, I joined a grief group. I went one time, and I couldn't do it. Not because I couldn't talk about my mom or my feelings or connect. It wasn't that for me.
No.
I didn't like the way it was being run. There were 2 women in the group who were obviously taking over the whole time. And I know I've done groups before. I know that they have like certain rules you're supposed to follow, and there's rules about how long people can talk. It's to make sure that everybody has an opportunity. And there were these 2 women who could not. Oh, it makes me laugh now, but they could not stop talking.
And no one was stopping them.
And no one was stopping. The leadership was not stopping them. And there were like 3 or 4 other people in the group who never even had an opportunity to share. Not even an ounce of opportunity.
Wow.
And they were talking, and their stories were so dramatic and so out. And it was like, so to me, I was like, I can't be in this group because it's being run so poorly. Yeah. And for my personality, I'm going to it's going to drive me crazy because all I'm going to be thinking about, instead of thinking about what I'm feeling, all I'm going to be thinking about are the 4 people who don't get to share every single time.
So instead of taking care of yourself, you're having
I'm going to take care of other people. And that's totally me. Is like, if I'm in a group, it's really hard for me to just focus on me. I think about how is everybody in the group thinking and feeling, unless I really trust the leader. Yeah. Then I can kind of come off of that high horse.
And that's a good trait, right? Because that intuition part of you knows that you can kind of sense people are wanting to share. Since you know yourself and you wanting to share, you imagine other people would want to share.
Yeah.
So that's a cool tool, right? To be able to to be able to help that, but then there has to be like a stopping point of, this is not my job.
I was there to like share about my grief.
You're here for you.
It didn't. Yeah, I was there for me, and it would have been probably better to make the decision like this wasn't a group for me because I didn't like the formatting of the group. I didn't feel free to be open, but I was more angry for the other people because I know me. Yeah. I don't have a problem sharing.
Right.
It's like if someone says, "Hey, Alia, would you share about the most painful thing that ever happened to you?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Where do I start?"
Bring that up.
Let me just launch that up out of myself. Like it doesn't.
I got it ready.
It doesn't bother me that much. You know this about me. I'm
do.
Too much of an open book. I'm like,
I don't know about too much.
I have like a appendix.
You're finding the.
Like a.
Do you see an appendix?
An appendix, like that's where you go in the back and you can look up words.
Not like your appendix.
No, like an appendix in my open book.
Oh, I see.
You can look up anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you like know which page.
I just know. I have very easy access. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Super easy access to.
Like page 4.
Yeah. And it doesn't.
Yes.
We talked about this before. It doesn't bother me to talk about things.
Life. The time that I got hurt. 102.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was raised in a family that over divulged.
Yeah.
Constantly.
You're like, I need to speak. Help me to speak.
My mom could like share her divorce story and the most wretched parts to the person in line at the shopping center.
So it's not like you didn't feel like you could speak. Everybody was speaking. So
everyone was.
Did you feel like you had a voice though?
No one ever asked me what I felt. But my parents were so good at talking about their thoughts and their feelings, and they were just so open. I think we naturally take that from our parents. It's like, I could see my dad just saying his life story. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm kind of the same way. It's like, if you ask me a life story, I'm like, yeah, okay, chapter 1.
And I am literally the exact opposite. My parents are both, we've talked about this. My parents are people who know my parents, they're very private, like tend to be, I shouldn't say that. Hopefully I'm not offending anybody. More like I respect that. They have really good boundaries. So
good
I think I learned that. Well, I'm not saying you don't. This isn't about you.
That's
not what I mean. So I tend to be a little more private too, because I feel like that's what I've learned. And I think each of my sisters and I have, done life our own way. But I feel like that has carried me through of these are the things that are good to share. And these are the things that don't really need to be shared. But then some people think, why aren't you sharing that thing? Why are you so closed? Why aren't you open? And I'm
Is that how those people talk?
Exactly, like a nasally voice like this. And they're like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, listen. This is where I come from. But it then became my choice. I'm choosing to share this and that. And I think now in life, being okay with it. You and I talked about this, even with this podcast, of how, what do we share? How much do we share? And really finding that balance so that we don't, because then my thing is bringing it back to worry. What are they going to think of what I shared? How do I share the things that I think are safe to, and in terms of like emotionally, and just let it be afterward and feel like I don't need to worry about anybody's perception. I don't have to worry about the future. I can just rest in what I'm talking about. And so we are very different.
Whereas me, when I share, it's a craftiness. Tell
me more.
I am very strategic about the way I share. I share a lot, but I have to watch myself, because I will try to craft the way someone thinks about me based on how much I share.
Yeah.
So I will be like, I'm going to tell this story. I'm going to share about this deep part of my life. I know the things that can impress people, and I know what to say to impress people. And so I will try to craft. So like like, I'm putting it out there and I'm afraid, but I'm like, oh, I'm putting it out there and I know exactly what I'm trying. I know I am directing the narrative in my own head. And that's what I had to really change about myself and some of my personal relationships, was realizing I was crafting too much of my narrative that people really didn't know the real me. So instead of being afraid of people knowing the real me, I was hiding the real me and using my life story to send out what I want people to think of me. Does that make sense? So mine's more about control.
Yes.
And I can use an infinite amount of information to control what they're thinking. Because I can say, well, I want them to think I'm deep. I want them to think I'm introspective. I want them to think, and I could still be those things, but I controlled it a lot. And I had to stop. There was a point probably about 3 years ago where I realized that, a lot of people knew a lot of information about me, but didn't know anything about who I was. And I didn't feel close to people.
Even though you shared all of that.
Because it's like sharing I have no emotional connection to sharing.
Wow.
Whereas like when you're talking about your sharing, it's like you're sharing and you're putting yourself out there. No, it was just information. Information was not an emotional attachment. I went my whole life watching my parents share information without emotional attachment.
Isn't that so interesting that like how we're raised affects us? Like I'm so glad. I feel like I need to make this better. I'm so glad my parents are the way that they are, because I feel like we do learn a lot from, like, things are modeled. So what I share, I feel, is significant. So in those moments when I do, I know, and the person knows, people who know me,
and you're
wow, Whitney's sharing this. This is very important.
This is big.
Not that she needed to keep it wrapped up, because I don't judge her, but it was like I feel like it was, this wise thing that was modeled for me.
Right.
But then figuring out later, because we see what's modeled, but then we have to figure out what works for us as we go along in life. Who's in our lives? What happens in our lives? How much do we share so that we're not creating something that looks great on the outside. We're not crafting something, so we're all just kind of finding the middle where it's not too much and it's not about like, I have to keep everything to myself, which is kind of what the direction I went to, where I shared a lot and then I didn't share, and then I've shared, and then realizing I get to choose the narrative, not to be like secretive or whatever, but just to say, in a way that's comfortable for me, this is what's happened.
Right.
This is the story.
Yeah.
So what's modeled for us, really shapes who we are.
Oh, for sure.
And I feel like me for the better, but then I had to kind of find out like how that fit in my life. So that's been a process of who do I share with who, like what do I share with which person.
Yeah, and choosing how close you want to be to people.
Right, because you can't take it back.
No, you can't. And the thing is, like, where I came to was like, okay, since I know this about myself, I know I can tend to be an oversharer and not feel anything. I could tell a stranger my whole life story and walk away like it was no big deal.
Yeah.
When I do want to get close to somebody, I had to figure out what is the stuff that I share that makes me feel close to others. And I think what I figured out was I was sharing a lot about what happened to me, but not what was currently happening. So for me, if I wasn't feeling it in the moment, it wasn't emotionally attached for me. So learning how to call a friend and say, I'm really sad today, or I feel like I'm not making it today. That is hard for me. Yeah. My sister-in-law came and helped. I was sick yesterday and today, and she came yesterday, but I didn't call her. My daughter, who's 1.5, accidentally called her on my phone, and she called back. I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And I was like, I just had this moment where I was like, I need to tell her that I'm sick and I can't take care of myself.
I need help.
Or my 2 kids, because my husband's out of town for 3 days. And so I told her, and she was like, okay, I'm coming over. And she came over and she took care of my children basically the whole day and let me rest.
She's still there.
She's still here. She stayed overnight. Amazing.
Washing the dishes. But you allowed
But
her.
I allowed it. And I told her, this is hard for me. She kept having to tell me to sit down. So I'd be like, oh, you need water, McCoy? Got it. Oh, you need... And she's like, sit down. I know how to get water. I'm like, it was so hard to be taken care of because I pride myself in being able to take care of myself and being able to do everything. But when I let people take care of me, like the times I've texted you, I'm not doing well, and you actually came over and like we're apart, that was hard, but it was hard because I felt vulnerable, because I was really sharing who I was, which is, look at me right now, I'm weak. Right now I'm weak. I don't have it all
together in this moment.
I wasn't telling a story from 2 years ago. Like there was this time I was weak and I overcame. It wasn't the overcome story. It was the I'm in it right now and
struggling.
I'm not okay right now. And that is the hardest thing for me to do. Because then you see me as weak now. You don't see the overcomer, the person who climbed the mountain.
So don't worry about the worry, right? The perception, right?
Yeah.
Because we're just doing life, and again, like a friend left me stuff on the porch. I had thought about that. I had trouble accepting that. I didn't accept it, right? Because I think that core belief of I have to have it together.
Right.
I think a lot of us might feel that of to show that I'm struggling with this thing or need help is not a sign of weakness in myself. Because I know there's people, I've enjoyed doing that for you, and I know my friends have enjoyed potentially having the opportunity to do it for me, of being there in those times when, I mean, I've come over and been a burrito on your couch, and I think that those are the times where connection really happens, and you feel like, okay, the dishes aren't all done, or I'm not okay right now, and that's... that you're still the person that you are. You're still lovable. We are still valuable. We have those moments where we need our community. And that is, that's vital to our relationships.
Well, they see you in your imperfection, and
I hate it.
I hate it.
I want to be perfect.
Well, the discomfort is, I think, when you allow yourself to be seen, and that discomfort you feel, and you're letting it happen, and you're just like, okay, I'm going to go there. I'm going to let... I think the hardest thing is watching that other person love you.
Yes.
Because we've already told ourselves that no one will love us when we're not perfect. No one would like the real us. If they really knew who we were, they wouldn't invite us. They wouldn't come over. They wouldn't be a part of our lives. And so when we invite people into those really, I'm not talking about imperfect, I'm talking about like those really true moments, and then we see that they still love us, it's harder to accept them when they love us for being amazing.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I think in the back of my head, I know you're here, but I think there's a part of, that perception of, I'm pretty sure you have a thought about me in my weakest, my most difficult moments. But I would say that if we knew what people thought, I don't really want to, but if I knew the people that love me, what they were thinking, I imagine it would be, thank you for allowing me into your life. Thank you for allowing me to show up because you showed up for me before. I love you for who you are. I love you when you're feeling, when you're struggling, when you're feeling broken. And I love you when you're feeling on top of the world and you have climbed that mountain and you've come down and you've overcome that. So that is hard. But if we worry about trying to make this whole thing fit together, it's just not going to work out. So we're just going to be flawed and okay with it because
let people love us in the ups and the downs.
Yeah. Who cares what people think? But we just got to be ourselves, and the people that love us are there and think the best of us.
So you know what's something that's got
me... They might judge me for my dishes. I'm just saying.
Something that's really gotten me through the whole surgery thing and the whole fear of my kids dying or being injured is, I'm not even kidding you, is the will of God. This was a thought I had. And every time I have this thought, because I get them a lot where I'm like heading to sleep or I'm just, my mind's wandering and I think of being in surgery, them cutting me open and then I'm bleeding out and then I'm dying and my husband's standing there and I'm leaving earth. I'm dying, right? Surgery didn't go well and they're killing me. I just have this thought like, you know what? That's not even in my hands. Like it is the will of God. And a lot of times when you see bad things happen, I think, you know what? It's God's will. It is not even something I get to control. No. And if something bad happens in my life, I don't get to control that either. I'm not saying good. I'm going to die, but like he's good no matter what. And if something tragic happens, he already knew it was going to happen and he's already prepared me for it.
Yes. And the people in your life. We don't have to.
And that actually makes me feel better because it takes the control out of my hands. And that's all it is realizing that it's the control of that moment is in my hand. There's nothing I'm going to do. No. There's no amount of thinking or research or anything I'm going to do that's going to change that moment. God's the only one that's going to change that moment. And so I give it that like control over to him. And I do it in a lot of little ways. And it's helped me really cope with it.
So we don't need to worry about the future or worry about things that we have because we have no control over it anyway. We should just live. I'm going to wrap it up in a bogan. Live authentically. I mean, I see people, I have my job, people are dying all the time. And, you know, it's just, it's, you know, it's important for us to live our best life. I'd rather go out on a mountain doing something insane than living a humdrum life. So live authentically, live boldly. I've seen people's lives, you know, when they haven't been able to live authentically and live healthy, and it's tragic. So we have no control over when we leave this earth. We have no control over what people think of us. We have no control over what's going to happen to our children, our parents, our families. But we do know that God knows us and he's got it all figured out. So I just need to stop putting my hands on the wheel. Jesus, take the wheel. And the brakes and the emergency brake, and the rear view mirror and the side mirrors. And I'm just going to like be in an Uber car. That's what I'm going to do.
I don't know how this analogy ended you up in an Uber.
I love metaphor analogy. I love the visual of like, I'm in an Uber car.
You know, she's just taking the wheel. I'm going to be in an Uber. He's going to drive.
No, it's not like I'm there, but he's like, but I got it. I'm in the back seat on my phone, like just listening to music, and he's driving me to the airport. That's the last time I used an Uber. This is breaking down.
This has gotten us really far. It's really funny.
Don't worry. Anyway, this is great.
Hey, Whitney, I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
And we love that you guys listen to this and that you get something from it. And please always feel free to reach out to us. I get people who send me mostly private messages and tell me
about it.
And tell me you know, just what it meant to them, a moment that meant something to them or something that changed their perspective. And that's what we're here to do, is to connect with you guys and hopefully share enough about our lives vulnerably that you guys feel that you can relate.
Yep, because it's not about us. It's about...
this is about us.
It is about us. It's our podcast. But hopefully people can relate because other people worry too. All of these topics.
Everybody worries.
Yeah. So comments, that's great. Shares, we love it. And we don't know what we're doing next episode, but that's okay. We're not going to worry about it. Thanks for listening to our episode.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.